Hi, I'm Emily and this is Dylan and we're with The Theory of Curiosity. Today we're going to be talking to you about bats. So why are bats important, you may ask? Well, they're important for Halloween, obviously, and they are a goth girl's go-to tattoo, but they're also important for you.
Here's a batty fact for you. Bats in the United States contribute up to $53 billion worth of value to farmers every single year. But besides that, bats in North America are extremely important at maintaining insect populations and nitrogen levels in the soil.
Yes, and unfortunately, we are on the precipice of losing all this benefit from the bats because there is an invasive fungal infection that has come to North America called white nose syndrome. And it is threatening to obliterate a lot of our bat population. So luckily, today we have an expert and we're going to ask her some questions. So my first question for you then is, what is white nose syndrome?
White nose syndrome is a fungal pathogen of bats in North America, and that has been spreading across North America since 2006. It is a psychrophilic fungi, which means it's cold-loving, and it is a dermatophyte, so it grows into the skin of the bats that is infecting. It is an invasive species, so it didn't originate in North America.
Ooh, that means really, really bad things for the local population. Yeah, invasive species are terrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It has a mortality rate of 90 to 95% in the colonies that it has reached.
Oh my gosh, that's really high.
Yeah.
Wow. So where is it from?
It's actually found in a lot of the caves that bats can be found in Europe and Asia.
Okay, so does it affect them?
It doesn't affect
okay.
them. So it's been in association with those bats for a very long time. So they've likely evolved to develop a less virulent relationship to each other.
So how did it get to North America then?
So this is a bit of a postulation, but it looks like it was brought over by contaminated equipment. It was first introduced near upstate New York in 2006. And so it was likely cavers who had come over and had the spores on them from caves that they had explored in Europe or Asia. And they managed to drop those spores off.
Well, I mean, I have gone caving overseas even, and I've come back here and gone into nature here, and I never even think about, bringing a mold spore over. People think about invasive species and they think about frogs is a big one that comes up, right? Bullfrogs or whatever. And it's kind of tragic that we don't have this reality kind of explained to us, that we have things on our clothes or things on our shoes or things on our ropes or whatever that can affect the local population in such a detrimental way.
Let's put that in perspective. The most common species in Canada, at least, if not North America, was the little brown bat. It's now on the federally endangered species list.
With little brown bats, one of the reasons why they're more affected is because of their hibernating habits. Are there any other reasons why little brown bats are more affected?
They're more numerous, so the numbers pile up.
Right.
The numbers of dead bats pile up faster. But it may be that their behaviors in the hibernation sites where the fungus attacks the bats contributes to spread within that cave, but it may also be their behavior of moving from site to site and moving the spores of the fungus along with them. Although initially the spread was largely due to people moving the fungus around unknowingly, now it's the bats move from cave to cave, spread it from individual to individual.
So you said it affects them when they're hibernating. How does it affect them exactly?
So you can often see on an infected bat the kind of characteristic white powdery growth on their muzzle, as well as onto their wings and even their tail membrane. Really, it only infects them while they're hibernating. But it grows into the skin. It starts to kill off some of the sebaceous glands or oil-producing glands in the skin. And that starts to affect their wing physiology as well as the evaporative water loss rates.
Ooh, that's huge.
Yeah, and their wings are, because they have such a large surface area, they're incredibly important in homeostasis in bats. By affecting their homeostatic ability, it wakes up the bats more frequently from their torpor or their hibernation. And by waking more frequently, they begin to burn through their fat reserves much more quickly. A lot of these bats end up dying from dehydration and starvation.
So I also read somewhere that it also affects their immunity in a really, really weird way. Because it's an invasive species, our local bats haven't developed an immune response to it. But they've tested gene markers on the bats that are in, this situation. And it shows that all the inflammatory stuff is happening, all of the itching is happening, and the white blood cells that are normally brought with all of these things aren't coming. They're sitting down on their lazy boys, unfortunately. So all of this inflammatory response is happening, but it's not actually doing any good. Because it's been building up for the whole time that they're hibernating, I think it's about 2 weeks after they stop hibernating, they have this huge immune response where all of these phages or white blood cells are attracted to the site of the infection, and it actually causes a lot of tissue damage or tissue death because it overdoes it.
The wings will begin to heal, but because there's often so much scarring that it affects their ability to fly and hunt over the coming sort of feeding season. So then the next winter they may have smaller fat reserves. And
So the problem just keeps building up and building up then.
Yeah.
So if it spreads at this current rate, then what are the potential outcomes of this?
So it is spreading to 100 to 250 kilometers a year westward and northward, but that's given on bat transmission. There have been jumps in its spread as well. For example, it recently reached Seattle, and that was likely through human transmission. And a lot of populations that were increasing or at very stable, very healthy levels are now facing 90 to 95% mortality of our bats throughout all of North America.
So this whole thing is really freaking me out. I think it should freak a lot of people out. And the fact that there isn't a cure yet that we can just kind of go to and feel okay about everything is pretty scary as well. But there actually is a way that we can help. It requires a lot of effort on human beings' part, and that is cleaning and disinfecting your equipment, your clothes, your shoes, everything. It's not just one thing, it's everything that you bring into that cave and out with you. There is a very helpful website that goes over this step by step. So if you are concerned about this, please visit the website below and it will help you in that journey. So we're asking people to do quite a lot of work here. One of the questions that they may ask you would be, well, if there isn't any white nose syndrome recorded in this area, then why do I have to worry about this?
Absolutely. So while there may not be white nose syndrome recorded in a certain area, it doesn't mean that it hasn't actually reached there yet. Aside from white nose syndrome, there's actually other possibilities of pathogens that could be spread through contaminated equipment. So you could spread invasive species in the plant realm, in the virus, bacterial realm, in the fungal realm as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's a million possibilities of invasive species that you can bring to these sensitive ecosystems, and you don't know how they're going to affect it. So it's always important all the time. It doesn't matter if you think that it's not. It is. Sorry. So this disease has caused the fastest decline of any wild mammal in recorded history.
In fact, it kills 90 to 95% of the bats it comes in contact with in North America. If that was a human disease, it would be like everyone in the United States disappearing except for those in New York State.
It's pretty scary, isn't it?